take in, I give out, I let love, I let go, I release, and I know, I forgive, I receive, I can feel, I believe, I am healed, I am whole, I release, I know. No need to push, no need to try, no need to worry or question why. Surrender, let go, release, and go. No need to push, no need to try, no need to worry or question why. Surrender, let go, release, and go. I take in, I give out, I let go, I give out, I let love, I let go, I release, and I know.
And let us continue to breathe. Breathe deep into your belly. And on the exhale, let the week go by. Any of the stuff of the week. Charles Fillmore said that the number one power that we have to develop is the power of faith. Cora Fillmore developed meditation that we're going to follow today. And as you continue to breathe deep, using your imagination, feel a very gentle waterfall on the very top of your head. This waterfall symbolizes the Spirit of God, the total, the complete, the allness. And as this waterfall of Spirit falls on the top of your head, which is the center of the power of faith, and as you put your attention there, the energy flows, and you begin to activate this power center of faith. Let it expand. Charles and Coral Fillmore said they believed the color here was royal blue. And the metaphysical symbol was Peter, faith. Let that feeling of faith expand into your entire mind. And when it begins to overflow, let that feeling of faith move into your heart. And from your heart into the rest of your body. And let it flow. Let it continue to fill up even beyond your physical body to your energy center. This is the idea of being full of faith. The other way the word is faithful. And so it is. And if you will continue to breathe and just keep your eyes closed for a moment, I'm going to ask you to visualize Unity of Wilmington. If you haven't been there, Spirit knows where the building is. And their senior minister stepped down last week, Reverend Richard Levy. Reverend Margaret is there to do the first service. And I just ask you, from your heart, from your eyes, and from your mind, and your hands, send love and light to that entire congregation as they make this transition today, and especially for Reverend Margaret. And we also hold the truth that Richard is an eternal divine being. And so it is. A couple of weeks ago, I was busy here with a lot of stuff that was happening in the church. Some of you know all about that. And during that week, I was also finishing up my last couple courses for my LUT, Licensed Unity Teacher. And Unity Institute has now put together a new software package. And guess what? I'm the guinea pig. First one through. Probably now in our 25th or 26th email back and forth. And we're finding codes that don't work. But in that one particular day, I don't know if you've ever been there, but I got to that point in my day where it was like enough is enough, right? I was doing all this stuff, running back and forth to the bank, and then in the middle of an exam, the whole thing crashes. And you know, I found myself in not a very good place. Not very positive. And I realized how quickly I could be derailed down a rabbit trail on a whole bunch of stuff that I really didn't want in my life. You know, I really even got self-righteous. You ever do that? I mean, how did this happen? You know, all the work I was doing for the church, you'd think at least Unity software would work today. That didn't help much either. So as I began to process what was actually going on, what was amazing to me is how quickly you could go from a place of really feeling good to a different place very quickly. And I've shared with you all before that my most powerful spiritual tool is my spiral notebook from Walmart for $4.69. And the next morning I wrote across the top, do I need more faith? And that's what came up for me. And you know what was really interesting as I watched, the next line I put was, and how do I get more? But isn't it interesting how my ego answered for me? It already assumed I needed more faith, so it was like, well, you need to go grab some more. And so I stopped and I said, as I went into my prayer meditation time, this is what I heard. The still voice said to me, do you even know what you're asking? Then I got real indignant. Of course I do. You know, I've got 2 more classes to go for my LUT. I've been studying faith for all these years. I know exactly what faith is all about. And I even got so self-righteous, I began to quote verses. This is kind of what we were talking with the kids when they were here. Evidence of things unseen. I was like, yeah, I've got faith. I believe in an infinite intelligence. I believe in divine mind. I know that it's all around me. It's in me. I can't see it. So yeah, I have some faith. I answered this. But when I went to the second one, faith small as a mustard seed. And if you remember this verse, it said if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can level the mountain. I was like, my mountain didn't get leveled. I was still in overwhelm, and I was still being self-righteous and full of pity. So even though I had faith, and my estimation, it was bigger than a mustard seed, but it didn't help. It didn't help me in that situation. Later on, as I was continuing my meditation prayer time, it came back again. Do you even know what you're asking? And at that point, I guess I got a little humbled because I said, I don't have a clue. Faith is a word that we throw around. I've been hearing it ever since I was a little kid. My father was a minister, so I heard faith a lot. And I assumed that I knew what it was, and it was obvious in this practice that I was going through, this experience, I didn't have a clue. So I decided what I usually do is that I go to great thinkers that I feel had a lot of faith. And the first one that came to mind for me was Dr. Martin Luther King. If you think about where he was in the 60s and what was going on, this man, to me, exemplified faith. Right? When I read his definition, faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. Now, he brought a couple things in here for me. Number one is faith for him was about seeing, right? The unseen, but he was seeing it in a staircase. To me, was consciousness moving up. And he was able to somehow capture it. This was a man who had faith that was small, let's say, as a mustard seed. But he had an effect. Something happened. And to me, that's what's important. I don't care much about all the people who talk and write 300-page books. I like the people who can put it in the essence in one paragraph or one sentence. To me, they're the ones that have the genius. And to me, this began to capture a whole understanding of faith. So let me open up to what it is that I see and what is my staircase. Buddha. This is a whole new concept for me. Our life's journey, on life's journey, faith is the nourishment. I never considered faith to be nourishment. I said, okay, what does that mean? Well, I know I eat food, I drink for nourishing my body. I think what Buddha was talking about here is how do we nourish our spiritual? Faith is nourishment. And you see what began to happen is my understanding, my consciousness of faith began to grow a little bit. I said, okay, maybe I don't know exactly what's happening here. Dr. Joseph Murphy, I consider him one of my mentors. I've read every book that he's ever written. Faith is a way of thinking, a mental attitude that gets results. I guess I was missing it. I wasn't getting results. My mountain wasn't leveled. Faith is a fusion of your thoughts and feelings that is so complete and inflexible that no external event can move you. Whoa. No external event. Again, I had to open up to a bigger understanding. What is faith? Our co-founder at Unity, Charles Fillmore, considers faith a power center in our subconscious. The meditation we did today is how he opens that power. And he said we've got to first develop this. And he says here it's the inlet and the outlet of all divine ideas. This is not unique to Charles Fillmore. He got this from his teacher, Emma Curtis Hopkins. But this whole idea is that our center of faith, our power center, some call it your crown chakra in your body, your energy body, all inlet and outlet of all divine ideas comes through there, he says. Again, faith begins to expand into even a bigger understanding. All inlet and outlet. I don't know if you ever have those days where you feel like there's no inlet of divine ideas. We now have a marker. We have a signpost that says why. According to Charles Fillmore, we got something messed up with our faith center, that no inlet, no divine ideas are coming. So we have a place to go and say, okay, what do we need to do to open that up? Now the next thing that I did, was go to the greatest, to me, the greatest metaphysician there is. And that's, to me, what the Bible's all about. It's showing us how we can go to a higher consciousness about each of our lives. This happened many times. There's 36 miracles that Jesus did in the New Testament. 24 of them have to do with physical healing. And what he says every time, when the person's healed, he never says, I healed him. He never says, God healed him. He says, that man's faith healed him. My concept of faith changed. Because then I asked the next question. Did that man's faith make him sick? Misplaced faith. Let's go on. A man's raised from the dead. Lazarus was in the tomb almost 4 days. He was starting to smell pretty bad. Jesus never said, I raised him. He never said, God raised him. He said, the man's faith raised him. And the faith of those around him. Any of you ever afraid? Jesus has a word for us. He said it to his 12 disciples. Why are you afraid? Why? Have you no faith? It's not fear, then, misplaced faith. I never considered that fear, being afraid, was the use of my faith. And then finally, the great metaphysician said, when you're asking for something, he said, there's only two things you got to do. Number one, ask. And number two, believe or have faith. And you'll receive. In my life coaching business, I have many people say to me, I've been praying for this for 3 years. And I said, what have you been praying for? Well, come on, there's a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Jesus said, ask. And you know how Jesus asked? Peace, be still. He commanded. That's what he's asking us to do. Command what you're looking for. But then the second piece we have to have is the faith, is the belief that it's already happened. Not that it's going to happen, because all you do then is continue to put it out into the future, and it never happens for you. It's happening now. It's happening in the fourth dimension, or spirit, and it's coming now through you. I want to quickly share a story from my life coaching. This young woman had everything going for her. She was very smart. She had the right college degree, attractive, everything in the world to be successful. And in the coaching, what came to light was 5 or 6 years before she had had an affair and had never told her husband. And the word she said to me is that this guilt is killing me. Now, as a life coach, I'm really tuned into words. So immediately that went in my notes. I didn't say a word. And she said, it's actually eating me alive. This plays faith on guilt. Now, I'm going to you get this for free today. This is from my life coach. The most detrimental energy that you can hold in your being, in your consciousness, is guilt. Because guilt, we have been trained in our subconscious that we must be punished. God doesn't punish us. Jesus said there is no condemnation. But we have been trained in the depths of our subconscious. What happened when you were a little kid and you were bad, you got punished? That has been driven deep into our psyche and our subconscious. And I'm telling you, if you want to do any work this week, work on guilt. You want to be at a place where you have zero guilt. Then you don't need to be punished. But you will find a way to punish yourself. And let me share with you how this really did. As we went deeper and deeper, I said to her, well, how are you punishing yourself? She said, I sabotage myself no matter what I do. I'm up for promotion. I'll do something that screws up and I don't get it. Someone not as qualified as me gets promotion. She was punishing herself because of her guilt. And as we went deeper and deeper, I said, well, tell me what your belief system is about you. And she said, you know what? I'm a really bad person. I said, really? Where did you get that? Well, that's what my dad said. I'm a bad girl. She's still carrying that as faith, but she was bad. And so with guilt, what happened with, you know why she had an affair? It had nothing to do with the dude. It had to do with she was bad. And she was going to manifest that out in her life. And she found the thing that made her the baddest. So we began to work with her. There's only one way to get rid of guilt, and that's forgiveness. And that's forgiveness of anyone involved, and mostly yourself. As Jesus said in the Lord's Prayer, forgive yourself first. But as I began to work with her, guess what else she was? She wasn't worthy, and she wasn't good enough, and she was a bad person. Is any of that true? No. Guess what? It was for her. Because it was her faith in all untruth. They are not, everything she said there is not true. Not a one. They are facts. She began to work on the guilt first. As that forgiveness starts to flow and the energy again of healing can come in, then you can begin to deal with the misplaced faith. But my experience in coaching is the guilt is the number one thing that creates more problems for us. It is misplaced faith. And I wish I had known what I know now in this study. I could have helped her much quicker. But it's all part of what we're all on. It's a process to learn. So what do we do? I had to show this slide because this is another one of my great mentors. And what I love about this guy is when he went to New York, no church would let him talk. They said, no, you can't talk. You're too far out. So Spirit told him to go to the theater industry in New York City and find a theater that would have practice in the Wednesday afternoons and then would have an open theater at night that no one was using, and so he rented it. And his first night, he had 8 people. This is 1940s. You can't see him. He's way over here in this picture. But there was 4,000 to 5,000 people on Wednesday nights in New York in 1940 showed up to hear what we teach here in Unity, is what he was teaching. And I love this quote of his about the law of right mind action or mind action or whatever we want to put to it. There are a few great laws that govern all thinking, just as there are a few fundamental laws in chemistry. We know that thought control is the key to destiny, and in order to learn thought control, we have to know and understand the laws. Key to the destiny. Key to your destiny and mine. What's so interesting about this, when I read it, and you go back to Peter, who Jesus said, on this rock I will build my church. And what he was saying was, on this rock, this is the rock of me, right? Kind of hard-headed sometimes. On this rock I will build my church. On the rock of Kate, I will build my church, Kate. And in each and every one of us here. But the second, later on in Matthew, when he talks to Peter, he goes, Peter, I will give you the keys to the kingdom. And Peter, again, represents faith. So this all ties in. When I read this, and then Fox says this is where the key is in the control of the thoughts. The controls of our destiny. So how do we use this to implement? There's a law of substitution. This is a law of substitution for everyone's mind. Our mind can only hold one thought at a time. And so if you have a negative thought, you can substitute it with a positive and hold it. Now when I'm talking about holding it, I'm not talking about those thoughts that just whiz by in the mind like clouds, right? I'm talking about the thoughts that you take into your heart, that you feel. You can only hold one of those at a time. So this law of substitution allows us to take control of our destiny by determining what we allow to become our faith. And it happens through our thoughts. And it's true for all human beings. Why is it true? Because the Creator designed us all with what? Free will choice. Choice of the words that you take into your heart. And that focus becomes your faith. And your faith is synonymous, I believe, with consciousness. And from that vibration of consciousness, you determine your destiny in today and for every day after. When I was working with this young lady, she said to me, well, how do you substitute thoughts? How do you make the measure of it? And I said, you know me, I'm a really simple guy. Jacqueline calls me the Cliff Notes version guy. If I can't get it in 3 things, forget about it, because I can't implement it into my life. And so what I use for the measure is it of God's nature? I cannot go wrong if I allow anything that's good, true, or beautiful into my mind, into my heart. Because that's the nature of God. Good, true, and beautiful. So I use that as my measure. If it's anything other than that, it's suspect. It's thrown away, deleted. I use the delete key, just like the computer. Delete. You'll hear me say it. Jacqueline will hear me on, the news comes on, and I'm sitting there going, delete. Delete. I will not allow that stuff. It doesn't fit good, true, and beautiful. I don't want it in my consciousness. I don't want it in my thought. I don't want it in my heart. Now, am I successful every day? Of course not. It's a process. But if you don't have the boundaries to measure, you're going to let it all come in. And it will become your faith. It will become your consciousness. And it will become your destiny. I love this quote of Buddha. When I get here 24/7, I've arrived. When you realize how perfect everything is, you will tilt your head back and laugh at the sky. How could you ever be in a bad mood? Good place to start. If you find yourself that day not being able to do this, you know you've got some work to do. You know you got some work to do up here. And in closing, I wanted to offer this affirmation. It comes from Dr. Paul Hasselbeck, who's now Dean of Unity Institute. This is his affirmation of his book, Power Up, which he talks about the 12 powers and how to implement them in your life. I claim faith now. I believe I'm the best Christ I can be. Whoa. So here's my challenge for this week. Find one thing. Now, when I say one thing, if it's coming out of the past, it's going to be guilt, shame, blame, that stuff. If it's coming out of the future, it's going to be worry, anxiety, fear. But if you're not staying present in the here and now, you're bringing that stuff either from the past here, if you're still in guilt or still in blame, or most people that I work with are the other way. You know, have you ever heard someone say, well, you just don't understand that. I'm a warrior like my mother was, it's just who I am. No, it's not. You have chosen to be the warrior. And that is your fate. And it will be your destiny. And I can tell you what your destiny will be. More worry. More things to worry about. So my challenge to you is, here's what we're learning in metaphysics. You know, the psychologist said you need 28 days to make a new habit. But we're finding that if you begin to use spirit in the process, 7 days, and if you do 3 5-minute meditations, and your meditations can be simply, I let go of all guilt. I forgive myself. And I stay centered in truth, whatever that truth is for you at the moment. 7 days, 3 times a day, morning, noon, and at night, for 5 minutes. Not a lot of time. But in 7 days, you will begin to change your consciousness. 7 days, 3 times a day. Now, on the 4th day, if you miss it, it's consecutive, you got to start over at number 1. But here's my challenge. Pick one. One from the past, one from the future. Don't try them all. Do one. And in that process, for 7 days, 3 times a day, all I ask at the end, I'd love to get the emails at the end. Say, you aren't going to believe what happened. And I go, yeah, I will. Because you begin to change your consciousness, you change your faith, and when you change that, you change your destiny, here and now. You don't have to wait for it for 3 weeks or a month. So that's my challenge. Give it a try this week. I'd love to hear you. Thank you so much. Awesome.